Good afternoon, friends. I'm Namrata Mandru. As Sri Lakshmi said, I lead digital transformation across the chemical fertilizers and insulators business at the Aditya Birla Group. With about 2 decades of experience in digital, I've straddled across the corporate world as well as the startup world, having been an entrepreneur myself. And I've led digital marketing operations across multiple geographies. And over the last decade or so, I've focused more on strategy and transformation. But I have to confess, I still remain most excited about building customer centric organizations. And I'd like to thank the Exeter team for inviting me to moderate this discussion today on digital customer experience. Friends, I was reading a global report done by the Capgemini Research Institute on COVID-19 and the age of the contactless customer experience. And I thought it may be a good starting point to share with you some of the key stats and insights that came out of that. So it said 77% of consumers expect to increase their use of touchless technologies and to avoid any kind of interactions that require physical contact. Another 59% of consumers prefer using voice-based interfaces in shops, banks, government offices, and other public spaces. 66% of consumers prefer using mobile phones at physical locations themselves, and they would continue wanting to do so even after the pandemic subsides. And again, 52% of the people prefer facial recognition for authentication at different places where it's required. So really the question comes down to what are the new strategies that we need to have in place for a touchless tomorrow customer experience? And to hear this, we have some of the most progressive businesses doing different things on this front over the last 6 months and even some of them even before that. So join me in welcoming a very eclectic mix of thought leaders and practitioners today who, as Sri Lakshmi said, vary across a number of different industries ranging from airlines to retail to banking to payments and technology. If we can start with each one of you introducing yourself, we could go in an alphabetical order. So Dharma, if I could ask you to please start first and then we'll follow on from there and then dive into the panel discussion.
And Amrita, I think he's not in yet. So we'll start with Nitin.
Okay, so let's start with Nitin. Yeah, I just realized I thought Dharma was in there. Okay, Nitin, we can start with you.
I think it's beautifully done and highlighting all the great insights. So I'm Nitin Sethi. I head digital transformation for Indigo Airlines, India's youngest and coolest airline with close to 60% market share. It's been 2.5 years for me to establish 60 Digital with the group and leading all the digital practices. Prior to that, like Namrata, I had chance to work with startup ecosystem and create some brands like Naukri, Yatra, Pickup, etc. And of course, looking forward to have great insights in this presentation.
Great, thank you. If we could now have Saurabh, if you could please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Great to be on this panel. I'm Saurabh Gupta, co-founder and CEO at Vernacular.ai. At Vernacular, we build voice bots to automate IVR and a lot of manual work done by human agents on call centers today. We work with some of the largest enterprises in India, including the likes of ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, and some others. And we are a 4-year-old company and growing pretty aggressively post-pandemic.
Awesome. Sorry, I missed you, Gautam. I know you gave the cue, but if you could introduce yourself and then we'll come to Subramaniam.
Sure, thanks, Namrata. Hey, everyone. I'm Gautam. I work with the product team at PhonePe to bring secure, fast, and reliable payments to everyone in the country.
Awesome. Subbu, if you'd like to go next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Absolutely wonderful to be part of this esteemed panel, and thank you, Exito, for inviting all of us. Just a quick background. The banking, I've been into banking for the first time in my career since the last about couple of years with DBS Bank. I headed the customer experience for India, and prior to that, have been in telecom over a period of about 18, 19 odd years. So that's it about me.
Awesome. So we'll just continue in the reverse order.
So we have Dharmarajan as well.
One second.
Yeah, he's joined in.
Okay. Hi, Dharma.
Hi. Very good afternoon.
You've joined just in time. We were just doing the introduction, so if you could briefly introduce yourself and then we'll dive into the panel discussion.
Sure. Thank you so much, Namrata. Thank you, my fellow colleagues and panelists, and thanks everyone for joining. This is Dharmarajan here. I'm the Chief Product Officer with TataClick. Been with TataClick for about 4.5 years, probably closer to 5. Been with e-commerce industry for almost 8-9 years. And for some of us who want to know what TataClick does, we are the online e-commerce marketplace who are bringing online and offline experience and amalgamating it together in a brand-obsessed fashion. Thanks, Namrata. Over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to jump back right to you, Subbu. And I think the first thought which comes to mind really, living in these COVID times is that we're in the middle of a very traumatized society because of, all the ways that COVID has impacted us. And this obviously has an impact on brand and businesses also. And the need for winning customer trust or retaining customer trust is at an all-time high. So just help us understand a little bit about, how has your journey been in terms of digital transformation and, looking at customer centricity particularly, and some of the key challenges that you may have faced, along this journey, especially in the last 6 months or so, or what got you prepared in the pre-COVID era to, handle this a lot better. So would love to hear your insights on that.
I think, DBS Bank being digital at the core, probably, that kind of saved us, in this journey. So predominantly, it is on the digital platform. That is what we have. So typically when you try and build up a technology or a platform or your products or services, typically, it so happens that, you get into creating those and, dishing that out to the customers for, customers to pick that up. But we went around on completely other way around, wherein, trying to understand what does the customer want in terms of your products and services, and build your technological platform and the layer in that particular part. So that actually, kind of helps set the fundamentals in place. COVID, yes, absolutely right that, it has been extremely challenging for all of us, us as professionals and us as consumers as well, right? And over the last 6 to 7 months, obviously, it has been extremely jittery from the customer standpoint. And specifically I'm coming from the BFSI sector, and we have gone through, enough and more instances of customers wanting to do some transactions, and how do we kind of enable the customers to do that seamlessly, and hence we saw this as an opportunity to kind of work extremely closely with the customer to ensure that they are taken care of, ensure that all of their requirements are taken care of. Yes, we indeed faced challenges. Reason is our contact center and everything. For us to get everything, up and running to a work from home, it took about 15 days time. But that 15 days time was, that was extremely critical for each one of us, right? To ensure that we have all the resources up and running and we are able to serve the customers seamlessly. What kind of saved us was our scalability, right? Because of the digital platform, your speed to market and for the ability to go back with rolling out on the products and services for the customers on the digital platform, that became all the more easier for us since we had a tried and tested, platform with us. And with those, we were able to kind of handhold customers that much more effectively, ensure that you're able to take care of their requirements and work with them, empathize with the customers even more, and ensure that they are well taken care
of. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and that rings a bell with some of the other experiences I've been hearing. So moving on to you, Saurabh, you're the founder of a digital first company, and you are also providing a service which is very relevant in the social distancing era that we are beginning to live in. Also, you cut across different markets and geographies and customer segments because you have this platform which goes vernacular. So could you share a little bit more about, how the experience has been for you, both on the B2B side, and what kind of insights with your intelligence platform that you've garnered, and what kind of shifts are you seeing in consumer sentiments and their intents, etc.? If you could give us some sense of that, that would be interesting for the audience.
Sure. So Namrata, first of all, digital transformation from our perspective, given that we work with multiple enterprises, it has definitely seen an uptick, post-pandemic. And I was just reading a report from McKinsey that said, if it is done right, we're talking about 15-20% increase in revenues as well, right? But there are challenges associated, as you were mentioning earlier, with digital transformation. And the way we look at it is, I think one of the bigger challenges is that the fact that there are multiple contact points for a customer with an enterprise, right? And with the number of contact points increasing, the complexity increases significantly. What do customers want today, right? Customers want easy access. Customer wants quick query resolution. Customer wants consistent messaging and personalized communication, right? And they want this across all channels. Now, what does it mean? It means that, if you have a website, a user is expecting you to have, you listed down your email address or your phone number on the website. If you have, user which is a rural customer, logging on a mobile app, it needs to be multilingual. From a call center perspective, what it means is if someone is calling you, they are expecting a quick query resolution. At the same time, talking about call centers, it is one of the most, lagging interfaces for customer experience today. And, purely from the perspective of, a customer is spending anywhere close to 50, 60 seconds waiting on the IVR, then the wait time could be anywhere from 30 seconds to over 30 minutes in some cases. In some businesses, we saw that post-pandemic, right? And all of these are, big problems that need to be solved for, very customer-centric digital transformation. And what we, are sort of doing is we are building bots, right, which integrate with telephony of any large enterprise, and we are able to automate not just the IVR, but also large part of work that human agents are doing today. So what it happens, for the user? So users wanted quick, query resolution. So bots are as quick as, it can be, right? Users wanted easy access. There's no IVR anymore, right? You can call let's say, we're deployed with ICICI Axis. You call Axis Bank today and, we'll probably hear, "Hi, Namrata, welcome back to Axis Bank. How can I help you today?" Right? And you can just quickly say whatever you want. And, you've saved like about 2 minutes of explaining it to IVR or explaining it to a human agent, and, directly your query is answered. So what we are seeing is, definitely post-pandemic, a lot of enterprises are seeing the need to do this, especially because there are other challenges which are happening when call center workforce is sitting at their home. In some unique cases, we have heard that the calls are not taken by the agents, but, their family members. Right now, how do you solve these problems? These are some of the interesting things that we are seeing, and definitely we are also seeing that personalization is becoming very important, right? Both from the perspective that if you are calling, the agent or the interface needs to know who you are. You're probably a customer of Axis Bank from 20 years, so we need to address you accordingly, right? If you're calling, we already need to know why you are calling, right? But there's also another element which you were bringing, talking about earlier, which is the cultural influences. Right? So we are building a product, or the way we look at it is we need to build for Bharat. For most of the enterprises here today, the users are not just the top English speaking or even Hindi speaking audience. We're talking about 10 different languages in India, at least covering 90% of population. So we are building a solution which can understand 10 languages, 100 odd dialects. A small use case for that is if someone calls us, your call center from Bihar, if someone calls Axis Bank from Bihar, we don't talk to him in Hindi, we talk to him in Bhojpuri, because that is what ticks with that customer. That is when you see the right conversion numbers. So that's what we've been up to.
No, very interesting, Saurabh. And I think, again, I'd love to deep dive into some of these points a little later, but I want to give an opportunity and maybe just shift the focus from digital first, enterprises to Nitin, who's, been with an industry which has been, I guess, one of the most hard hit industries in the in the COVID era, and with the extreme pressure on cost cutting and turning around the losses, how have you still managed to keep this customer at the center of the at the heart of the organization, Nitin?
Namrata, you rightly said, travel, tourism, airlines are very, very badly hit. For 2.5 months, it was standstill, right? And with a market size of close to 48%, which was pre-COVID for Indigo, and we used to fly 6.5 million passengers, right? Close to, and it's not about making a digital first. At that time, it was re-establishing trust and confidence. When we restarted in July with bunch of flights, and now we are again, right, close to 800 odd, and Indigo reaching again 60% market share is basically a testimony of becoming customer and digital first. It's neither two, right? So it's two sides of the same coin. And it happened when you focused on self-service, you focused on customer centricity. Of course, like you said, there is a lot of cost pressure and other things, but the focus remains same, that can we offer a consistent experience? Can we establish that trust in a seamless manner? Can we make sure that that touchless experience and the hygiene and everything has been very, very well taken care? Because we have seen the pattern change. People are not taking round trips when we began, right? People were taking one-way flights, a lot of, so there was no leisure travel and tourism happening, right? So if you're going to Bihar, you're not coming back. Migrant workers were actually going, and that's where a lot of call center was not operational. And all these challenges, the technology, what Saurav has touched upon, with the self-service of chatbot. So we have our Dotty, right, where the customer can come and get service. So there is a trust that okay, your money is saved in a credit shell, and the validation is for 6 months, and when people came back, we also extended the time, and now the full-fledged refunds are happening. So with that brand promise came into the picture, and of course, I'm very happy to tell you that Indigo right now sits at 59 to 60% market share, right? That can only
That's
happen.
great news. And that is a huge revival story from where I think the sector and the industry has been. So thank you for that, Nitin. And Dharma, I'm going to shift to you, straddling between the offline and the online world, the phygital world, so to speak. Online shopping has become the new normal, and e-commerce is achieving new heights. But was just keen to know, what is it that you've been doing in terms of all these new customers that you've acquired? How have you had to pivot some of your strategies for first-time online shoppers? And we heard that in the previous panel also a little bit, but would love to get your perspective from a Tata Click perspective, and then how what are some of the things that you're thinking of about retaining them in the post-COVID era? Again, we heard some of that in the prior sessions, saying how much of the stickiness is going to remain and how much of it is going to, is that going to be a concern for you at Tata Click? How do you see that panning out? Sorry, Dharma, I think you're still mute.
Yeah. Thanks, Namrata. Thanks for the question. So unlike my fellow panelists, for us, it's been a slightly different experience in COVID. As you rightly said, the consumer demand suddenly rose, barring the months of April and May when there was complete lockdown. We started preparing for ourselves. We realized the moment this move happened, we were a little earlier in terms of predicting how this is going to pan out, taking in a lot of learning from what was happening across the globe. We were not, as an organization, we were not waiting for things to happen in India to realize what my next step should be, and so on and so forth. Starting with our first lockdown was announced between 18th and 22nd, but we started moving our customer service team to work from home from 12th or 13th of March. So that gave us an additional 10, 15 days. And in all of these, we have been sort of slightly ahead of the curve in terms of taking database decision and being extremely clued on to the ground across the globe and taking in all the learning. And from there on, every step, the data started pointing towards more and more consumers moving towards online. Their shopping preferences changed. Some of the things that consumers have never shopped online, they started shopping. Consumers who have never shopped anything online have started moving to online. To just give you some data points, like in US, it took about anything between 15 years or so for the e-commerce as a penetration of total retail market to touch about 10-11%, it took about 10-15 years. In 3 months of pandemic, that number from 11 moved to 25 plus. And that is the kind of impact. So you can imagine what is happening across the globe. And once a consumer experiences the convenience of being at home, getting to see the sort of widest of selection, you're seeing the latest fashion merchandise across multiple brands and multiple stores at the convenience of your home and getting it delivered. And once you experience, we strongly believe if you provide the right experience when they buy it for the first time, they are going to stick with you. And hence the importance of defining your guardrails. What is the best quality service that you need to provide? How do you ensure that you don't let the service deteriorate to the level that customer have to wait for, like what Saurabh was mentioning, that it takes very long time to somebody to get in touch with the call center team. The delivery timelines extend. We've sort of prepared those guardrails and ensured that we are better prepared. With all that, we still were sort of overwhelmed by the move that the country was making towards e-commerce. And then we also sort of built certain first-time rules. We called it as demand shaping, which means at any point in time, we will not let the experience suffer for the want of increasing the sales. Because the demand was so high, we always ensured that we will service only so many customers, will take in only so many orders where I can provide exceptional quality of service over a consistently longer duration of time. And these are the kind of database decisions that we are taking to ensure we continue to scale up. Just to give you a little sort of sense of what these numbers are, our visits have sort of increased by 3x numbers if you compare it with Jan-Feb in the month of August-September. Our similar is our order numbers, similar is our visit numbers, and hence the need for preparing for all of this. A lot of metrics we sort of completely reject, moved from external focus or output focus to input focus metrics, which also sort of help us in keeping a very tight control on every single aspect that gives and delivers a great customer experience. We are in a situation where we have a good problem for us to solve. And we believe that we are doing a reasonable job there. A lot more to solve, and we always have the advantage of being digital native, digital first. What some of the other companies have to sort of adopt to, for us it is like bread and butter. For us, there is no other way to survive. Anything and everything that we do is digital first in thinking. Even if I have a very human involved problem solving, we'll first think, how do I use technology to solve the problem? And if I can't, then I will try and bring in human, which is other way around in sort of a lot of slightly older companies, etc. So,
sure. No, that's yes. I think that's a great story in the making. With the way e-commerce is picked up in even across the globe, but even in India, and it's gone to Bharat beyond just the India part of it. So with that, Gautam, coming to you, I mean, payments are the lifeblood of any, economy. And I think you have an interesting challenge. When I was thinking about this, on the one hand, people have gone fairly minimalistic in terms of their consumption, in terms of, what they're spending on, etc. On the other hand, they have safety as the highest priority. And that implies that there's a higher migration towards online payments. So while you've been hitting the J curve on the one side, you've got, I'm assuming overall reducing pie of spend, which is happening. What were some of the things that you had to sort of, battle with or confront or change in your organization as you weathered through this past 6 months?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting 6 months, right? At least, on some of the stuff that we've been doing. I think Nitin and Saurabh kind of, brought this up earlier. But we've had to do like a hard pivot on, everything customer support and customer experience, right? See, fundamentally, we are a digital company, right? All of our products are on a digital offering. But, when the lockdown started, for example, right, we had to get everyone to start working from home. One of the things that we realized was that, while the magnitude of the problem when I say the problem, stores shutting down and folks not really using digital payments at physical stores was really big for us from a business standpoint. We definitely could not ignore the fact that, hey, we have customers who are still looking for support. We have customers who are still trying to reach out, right, to figure out, what's going on with their payments, or, if they have any questions. That's more transactional, right? So I think a lot of different teams at PhonePe, faced a very similar problem, right? All of the different business lines. One of the things, that the organization quickly did was to, pick up all of the, feet on street resources that we had, right? We have a lot of people who are on the ground who are working with merchants who form a big chunk of our customer base, and, switch that over to virtual or digital. So we could continue servicing them, but we didn't have to be present there physically, right? Once the reopen started. The other pieces that we had to tackle was this whole, security and fraud thing, like you rightly mentioned a little while ago. Since it's payments, right, we are already governed by like very strict regulations and guidelines. On top of that, there is, adoption of digital technologies and digital interfaces by a lot of people who haven't done it before, right? If you think about it, in the last 2 to 3 decades, the most familiar financial interface for this country has been a physical store of a branch or an ATM, right? So, when we have a lot of new users coming in to use, digital payments, right? We had to figure out how we ensure that, we keep that secure. How we can ensure that there are no, attempts, or, there's prevention that we can do through proactive intervention for fraud, etc. So the last 6 months, I think one of the biggest changes that has happened from our standpoint is not adopting digital, but more on, how we supplement it, right? With things like automation, with things like localization for the Bharat consumer.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. So coming back to you, Subbu, I'm just thinking, as you went through this, journey, what were some of the best practices that, emerged for you? Because there's a lot of innovation which has been happening, a lot of agility which has come into, a lot of organizations, including my own, in terms of, how we are solving for problems and new problems which are emerging that were not there. So from your perspective, Subbu, how did you sort of, how did you at DBS look at bringing in certain best practices, or how did you look at, leveraging technology and digital to accelerate, and improve the whole customer experience?
So what we realized over a period of time is, as part of my introductory this thing, as I said, all the products and services that we have is digital, right? I mean, it is on the digital platform, and not only launching of a new product or service, but also going back and checking, what has been the customer's experience. How is the customer going through the entire journey? Is it making sense? What are the cues that we can, kind of pick up from the platform? We do tremendous amount of customer insights. We go back and speak to, certain set of customers. For example, Namrata, you would have completed a journey in a particular product, whereas Saurabh probably, would have dropped off, right? So we go back and speak to both of you to try and understand what did Namrata like as part of the entire journey, and what did Saurabh didn't like. Right, so that is part of our overall journey thinking methodology that we have adopted. That is part of the DNA, and that again came in as a blessing in disguise for us when we went into this particular situation. Typically, when it comes into a branch banking, right, or a HNI kind of a client, you will have a tremendous amount of forms to be filled up and so on and so forth. And obviously, the business had to go on, right? And because of the digital platform that we had, we kind of digitized that entire sales process onto a seamless journey from the customer standpoint, wherein all the sales and everything from that matter, right? Everything kind of went on to a digital only mode. Right now, it becomes all the more easier from the customer standpoint. If we put ourselves in the customer's shoes, what are we providing to the customers is ease, convenience, and completely as per their comfort, right? And over a period of time, to begin with, yes, there were a certain set of customers where It took some time for them to understand and, embrace this particular change. But once you started working with them, once you started educating them, it was all the more easier for them. And now, kind of they have started welcoming this change now. The second one is on the chatbot, something that Saurabh spoke about. Typically, about 70 to 72% of all our interactions are on the chatbot. 72%. Okay, so all your product related, everything gets taken care through the chatbot. Now, what we have developed over a period of time in the last about 6 months is the interaction. So, for example, you made a transaction, and the transaction, kind of did not go through. You transferred, for example, money to, say, Gautam, but Gautam didn't receive, and you want to raise a dispute. We have been able to, kind of work on those journeys. And on the app itself, you can there is an in-app servicing that we have developed through a guided conversation that enables customer, rather than, typically if the payment didn't go through, there will be panic, right? And customer will try calling up, try understanding what happened and so on and so forth. It is there, then and there, kind of ready, available from the customer standpoint, able to go there, click on the transaction and dispute a transaction. That's it. We will take care of everything from the back end. We will go back, check, and come back to the customer basis. This is just one example that I gave. So on these, right through the customer journey, we have gone back and looked at what are the call drivers, what are the most important call drivers that are coming in, and building our case studies in such a manner that we are able to build all of these nuts and bolts into the journey so that it becomes all the more easier from the customer standpoint.
I think I'm going to just build up on this, point that you made and this insight that you shared, Subbu. And I think this is addressed both to you and to Saurabh, given that, the chatbot world and the virtual assistants are pretty much a large part of his world. So, as his perspective, given that customers are at the highest level of sort of seeking empathy, there was a time in the 6-month period when the call center was maybe the only human interaction that a lot of people had, and there too then they had a chat bot instead of a human to interact with. So how did you build in the whole empathy factor? How did you build in that intelligence so that you could actually drive it up to 72%? And again, sort of from your perspective, what did you have to do at the back end to make that happen across industries and across customers? Maybe just one or two things that you could share that would be a great learning for everyone.
So is Subbu going first, or should I pick it up?
Go in, Saurabh. I'll follow you.
Yeah, sure. So Subbu, first of all, amazing to hear the thoughts that you just mentioned. This is a very forward-looking bank and very, excited to see the thoughts that you share. And the volume that you're seeing on the chatbot, 72%, that's, I think, industry best from what I have heard till late. From our perspective, Namrita, how we look at, the whole bot ecosystem is, first of all, we try to identify where is a bot needed and where is a bot not needed, right? When we look at the state of call centers today, we've realized after doing much analysis, in more than 80% of cases, customers will be very happy to talk to a bot because they are not able to talk to a human agent. It's not like bot versus an agent. There's no agent on the other side, right? There are only wait times and IVRs. Right? But then the question is, you sort of try to, define where you will not use a bot at all, right? And for us, it is very clear. We work with some of the, banks, etc. So we don't touch anything which is fraud related. We don't touch anything which is, a dispute on transactions that has to be handled. Very sensitive cases, they have to be handled by a, human agent. But then there are other cases, right? One of the top banks in India today, if you want to change your address, right, registered address, you call the call center, you spend 15 minutes navigating through, talking to an agent. Agent says you can only change it from the internet banking. In this process, bank is probably spending 70, 80 rupees. And the human on the other side, the customer is frustrated that, I spent 15 minutes just to find that answer that I had to go to internet banking. So these are the things that bot needs to automate. Now the question is how to really build in empathy in what you are doing, right? Which brings us to the points on what the customer really wants, right? So we talked about easy access, we talked about quick query resolution, consistent messaging, and the fourth one is personalization. So there, how we look at it is, every person is different and they need to be talked to differently. right? Both from the perspective of, maybe their category in the customer, in some cases you would have, some premium customers, some non-premium customers, and, you have to give premium services, etc. But even talking beyond that about the cultural influences, right? How an old person, wants to be talked to versus how a young guy, how someone living in Mumbai wants to be talked to versus how someone living in Bihar, Darbhanga, Bihar wants to be talked to, are all very different. So what we are doing in our bots is bringing out that empathetic nature, right? So listening to audio of a person in the first 5 seconds, we are able to figure out the age, gender, dialect, accent, tonality, sentiment of the user. Now we have all this information in the first 5 seconds. And because we have all this information, we personalize responses for the user, right? If someone is 70-year-old plus calling us, we talk to them slowly. If someone is, a teenager from Mumbai calling, they don't want to be talked to slowly. They don't even want sophisticated words, right? They want colloquial, that Mumbai language to be talked to, right? There's code mixing that needs. So a lot of people don't talk in English or Hindi, English plus Hindi, English, right? So you need to understand those nuances. If someone is frustrated, our engines are able to figure out in first 5 seconds, if you are a frustrated caller, we transfer that call to a supervisor, right? Because frustrated calls shouldn't be handled by a bot. So I think these are some of the things that, one can do. And, this is what we do from, our bot perspective to, get that empathy in the whole conversational piece.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think you've covered a really wide spectrum of, aspects, whether it's the personalization or, just the transparency of, and knowing when to do that switch between humans and bots. I think there are many different perspectives. Subbu, would you like to add something?
Yeah, correct. Just to add on, just to build up on what Saurabh mentioned, I think digital, right? I mean, the power that it enables or provides organizations and people who know how to use data is tremendous, right? I mean, for example, you do a bulk, email messaging or a push notes onto the app and so on. It provides you inbuilt intelligence, right? Say, for example, when did Dharma look at the email? Did he open it or not, first and foremost? When did he open it? And thereby you're able to, kind of build preferences from Dharma to Gautam to Nitin to so on and so forth. And that is where you're able to bring in the personalization. And to what Saurabh mentioned about, with regards to the preference that the customer wants, you're able to build that. So, I mean, it is not surely not been a kind of an easy journey for us. I mean, if I look back about 2 years back, we were at about 52%. And even out there, only the product related queries, the bot was able to answer amicably, or wherein there is either a 0 or a 1, right? What is this product? I'm able to, kind of push that answer.
Yeah.
The moment it moves into an interaction, the bot fails. Yeah. And it is extremely important for you to continue to, kind of get the bot to learn and try and understand what does, kind of different customers from different segments, different locations, what do they bring to the table? What is their requirement? And continue to make your bot intelligent. So that actually then enables you to kind of bring in host of services that you're able to provide, which is intelligent in nature. Intelligent, why do I say is, for example, Namrita, if you walk into a Chroma, for example, I get to know that you're there, and whatever is the offer for that particular day, I'm able to push that to you then and there.
Sure.
Right. And that will completely be, unexpected from your standpoint. Yeah. And something that, I mean, for example, something that pushes you to kind of make that sale or make that, kind of purchase, and thereby, kind of using. So our tagline goes as such, it is live more, bank less. So we don't get into banking products and services at all. We clearly look at customers' jobs to be done, customers' areas of work to be done, and we try and partner with the customers.
No, again, so this really resonates well. And again, in my own journeys of, working with virtual assistants and bots, I think been on a very similar journey. So a lot of that resonates, what you shared. But I'm going to just broad base this conversation a little bit, just from bots to, other very interesting technologies that we have today at our disposal. And Dharma, if I can, jump to you, Subbu talked about, understanding customer preferences, and that's very important in this very competitive retail landscape that you're in, or e-commerce landscape that you're in. And also then, being able to leverage a lot of technologies to preempt and to predict what the customer wants, and to then eventually deliver that customer delight, if I may call it that. So share with us a little bit of how you've gone over the gone through this journey, and again would love to hear the Bharat versus India contrast on that, if you can bring that up, or any other relevant aspects that you may have. You're still on mute, Dharma.
Yeah. So this is an extremely wide question, and there are so many different problems that we continue to solve at various ends. And to start with, during the pandemic time, we had like two kinds of problem. One was the demand side problem, and one was supply side problem. Demand side problem is consumers have started searching for products that were not available on our site, which is like a queue to start something new. We suddenly saw that there's a lot of traction towards masks and such related products, which are not present. But we want to be true to what we stand for as Tata Click, which is a brand-defined store. So then we provide this input to our leading brands whom we work very closely with, and they come up with those products, and then we list it back on our site. And then doing those kind of action, which is highly data oriented. On the supply side, we had umpteen number of challenges. With every week, a change in red, orange, and green zones, country being divided into multiple zones, which will determine whether a product can be delivered to a particular pin code or a particular place, location, etc. Those continuously kept changing. And this led to a lot of sort of changes in technology. How do you build capability to provide this information to sellers, to logistic provider? How do you ensure this information is then available at the platform level to be providing an accurate promise to consumers? When somebody is in red zone, how much time will you take to deliver the product? Or you be able to sort of communicate, we will not be able to take the order, or there might be delay, and somewhere else you make these changes. These are the things that didn't exist, and using technology to solve the problem. This is predominantly on the pandemic side. Coming to the other side, what Subbu, Saurabh, etc. Were talking about in terms of use of various technologies in solving problem in today's world. And I also completely second the thought. A customer wants to get their problem resolved. Yeah, you're right. Like they want it to be done in as empathetic manner as possible, but they want their problem resolved. Gone are the days where email response time can be called out as 24 hours. People don't use email as emails. People write 5 emails within 2 hours. They treat it as an instant messaging platform. And it tells you something. It tells you that you are still living in the old world. Please move out of those concepts. Try and bring in what is instant. Customer will reach out to you when they really need some problem. You have to build capabilities to solve the problem then and there. And hence the importance of capabilities like chatbot, understanding deeply. It is not just about like different problems that we need to solve for consumers only on the post-purchase side. There is a lot of problem, especially on the e-commerce world. Even on pre-purchase side, we are trying to solve for through chatbots in terms of what products to choose, what is the best configuration to choose for, depending on, for example, somebody wants to buy an AC. We can sort of guide them depending on which city they are in, what is the expected temperature, max temperature, what is the room size, what is their preference in terms of tonnage. All of that can be clubbed, and these are the kind of problems we are solving through chatbot. Then for us, what we at core are is about knowing the customer better and stitching various digital footprints that consumers leave during their journey with us, and using that information in a fashion that I can reach out to the customer at the right point in time with the right message, with the right offer. And this requires a lot of data, a lot of science. We use internal lot of ML-based algos to come up with what to choose, when to choose what. And also we use various tools which are highly AI ML based on recommending different products. We have now started personalizing consumer journey. When you open up our app, what you get to see on your page will be very different from what any other customer at that same point get to see. And these are like just the beginning. It is just starting. And there are so many other technology we are still experimenting with. We have started doing some bit of voice-based testing. We very strongly believe voice-based interaction, whether it is voice service, or voice automated bot service, or voice commerce, voice search is a technology of the future. I can give you some anecdotes. My daughter, all of 6 years, she conveniently places an order through Alexa whenever she wants to order for any cookie, and she has done it a couple of times. And then you realize the power. She can search whatever that she wants. She's just started learning to read and write, but still can interact with digital products extremely conveniently. Probably in some of the products even better than we can. And that is when you realize the power of these technologies. And then it's still in early days on augmented reality and virtual reality. We are trying to use some bit of these technologies for certain categories, like jewelry, eyewear, some bit on fashion. Fashion is a slightly difficult problem to solve as yet. There are technologies available globally which have solved. Beauty is another category which is solvable. We are experimenting, and wherever we are seeing very high traction. Today, this traction is little towards novelty, not as much towards the use and the value that the product brings in. But we strongly believe that that's going to sort of slowly change. It is like being on top of Gartner's hype curve. So that's where some of these are in our country, but it soon will become mainstream. And as a digital first, digital native organization, we are continuously experimenting, keeping ourselves abreast with all of this, and using every single aspect. There is like there's no limit of how you want to use this data and technology for enhancing customer experience to ensure that customers are always on your platform. How do you ensure that you maintain your DAUs and MAUs? So yeah,
no, that's
where we are.
interesting, Dharma, because you gave the example of your 6-year-old, and I can give the example of my dad, who's almost touching 80, and he started using voice much before I did, because laptops were too clunky for him, and his mobile phone screen was too small. So the minute he discovered Google, and that he could do voice searches on Google, he started with that, and that was much before I adopted Alexa or Siri or any of those. So I think it's interesting to see both
so that's
ends.
Why, for us also, if our experimentation on chatbot is predominantly on the voice side, where we believe that customer will just ask, where is my order? When do I get my refund? More than wanting to even type. And that is the convenience factor.
Sure.
Those are the shifts that we're seeing. At the back end, it still will be a bot. Chat may be replaced with any other sort of interaction channel. That's what we think.
Yeah, and I think what is coming out of a lot of the conversations we've had so far is that there's a high degree of personalization, a very high level of proliferation of channels, but which brings me to one, I think, aspect that we all are battling with. And Gautam, coming to you, because you touched upon it briefly earlier, there's this whole, conflict between personalization versus privacy. So given that you're in an extremely regulated environment and, and you do have a lot of, customer data at your disposal, not just in terms of payments, but even beyond that. So how are you looking at tackling this challenge? What are some of the things that you're focusing on or doing?
Well, I think a lot of it, kind of comes back to the kind of impact or value we can add to our customers based on the data that we have, right? At any point in time, when we have to choose between, personalization or privacy, we go with privacy, right? And of course, the standard stuff that you see in the market, in the industry, where we anonymize, we don't really, track back the data to customers, right? We compartmentalize all of the data. We have embedded processes, etc., right? So we follow all of these best practices. I think, there is definitely going to be a cost of doing business, especially in our space, right? Now, how high that cost is and what are all these, dominoes that cost is going to like push over is what we have to evaluate. And we've been doing that, right? Like, to give you an example, right? like when we talk to our customers, right? We have voice bots, we have chat bots, we have voice automation, and we have a couple of other, very unique channels. For example, all our systems are app aware because the app is our core ecosystem, right? So if you're talking on the IVR, the app is aware that you're talking on the IVR, what options you're choosing, and vice versa, right? So even during such interactions, when it is, let's say, one single customer who's engaging about their transaction, their questions, we make sure that the data fragments are all not in one place, right? So you can talk to the IVR, you can engage with the app at the same time. But if somebody intercepts and gets that information out, there is no way they can figure out who it is, so who this data belongs to. But yeah, again, going back to the point that how much value we can drive for the customer, right? We don't want to just push things or try to force fit what we think is value for the customers. Right. So that's where the decision making comes in.
The line. Yeah. Okay. So in the interest of time, would anybody else like to because we're running out of time? Anybody else from the panel would like to add their thoughts or have a counterpoint of view between the personalization versus privacy debate? Nitin, would you like to add something? Or yes, please.
Namrata, I think improving customer journeys are never going to be out of style, right? That's going to be theme. Whether you use your chat bot or the customer uses your website or an app or he reaches to you on your email, I think it's proactively surprise and delight and continue to focus on the customer empathy. I think that's the key. And of course, the video, vernacular, voice, these 3 V's are going to create the bigger value, which going to help us retain all these customers. That's very, very important. So starting from Subbu to Dharma, Gautam, Saurav, I think everybody has highlighted that, that's the ecosystem going to be, that's the canvas we're going to paint, and customer has to be center, and customer delight is the way forward. But again, I totally agree with Gautam what he's said, that if you need to choose between personalization and privacy of data and security, I think that's the thing which brand needs to go. So it's very, very sustainable and responsible customer experience creation from all the leaders.
Sure. So yeah, I think the keyword is you need to be a responsible brand, because that is more paramount to keeping your reputation intact. So, okay. So with that, I think we have to close our conversation now. So I'm going to do one final round of questions. If you can, each of you can share with me in one word or one phrase, what is the one takeaway message you would have for our audience today in terms of creating a better customer experience? So let's start with you, Nitin, and then we'll just do it.
So being youthful at this age.
Being youthful at this age. Okay. Gautam?
I think proactive intervention without a lot of disruption.
Okay, proactive intervention without a lot of disruption. Dharma? Sorry, can't hear you as yet, Dharma.
Sorry, I said technology first thinking across the board. Anything and any problem that you have, use of technology to solve the problem, and be ahead of the curve. That's what our sort of message would be.
Okay. Saurabh?
Yeah, I think for me, it will be, easy access, quick resolution, and ultimately the best service is no service.
Fantastic. Okay. And Subbu, we'll wrap up with you.
Customer at the center of everything. I mean, this is here to stay, right? So people have to embrace the change, but keeping the customer at the center without a doubt.
Fantastic. So now we already have a set of questions which Sri Lakshmi shared with us from the audience. So let me start with the first question, that we have over here, and it's addressed to everyone. Any of you could take it on. Is there a way you can measure the chat accuracy? This is by Rohil Ahmed. Saurabh, would you like to?
Sure.
So number of closures so if the 100 chats are happening, so for us, it's 80% chat closure and only 20% has been handled by manual intervention. And I'm sure Saurabh can add more of.
Yeah. I mean, you simplified it a lot, Nitin, but I mean,
yeah,
actually a very it can get very complex, and this, we can talk about it for hours together, I'm sure, if we sit together. But the way we look at it is, you need to have very, very, very high precision, right? And what I mean by precision is you can't give a wrong response to any user. So have 99.99% precision. That's the most fundamental level to start thinking about a bot. On top of that, then you start seeing, at 99.99% precision, how much can I start automating? Even 5% automation is good enough. If that is all you get with 99.99% precision, you never compromise on precision. Is that how we look at it? And then bot learns over time, and the percentage automation can keep increasing.
Okay. So the next question we have is on what kind of challenges have you had? Have you faced in data privacy issues while working from home, and how did you overcome them? Again, open to anyone across the panel.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think a bunch of different things, right? I think, from like, for example, in our case, we have a lot of different vendors that work with us, and they're based in many different cities of India, right? So making sure that one, they have all the access to data that they need, because they are the front line, they talk to our customers, but also making sure that the access is enabled on a need basis only, right? Ensuring that the right network setups are created, right? The last mile connectivity to where they are, getting the DOT to like ensure that, they're approving, data movement to where we wanted to send it to. More importantly, in a situation where everyone's working from home and, you have to flip the switch overnight, while you like put in all of these guardrails and security measures, it's very easy for somebody to just walk around with their computer and just share data with anyone else, right? So we had to come up with like point in time access enablement. We had to come up with like converting PII data to something very different that can only be used in systems. So yeah, I mean those are just some of the high level challenges that we faced when we had to get people to work from home.
Yep. Yeah. So we have one more question. This is on India is known for various languages and dialects of speech, making it difficult to use AI to really map and understand the customer's voice or sentiment. How do you guys address this challenge? So maybe a customer's perspective and, Subbu, Dharmesh, Nitin.
Yeah, I think Saurabh touched upon, as part of his this thing as well. I think, and then the probably first 4 to 5 seconds period of time, you're able to try and understand what is the sentiment of the customer, and hence, over a period of time, you are able to build that intelligence in your system so that you're able to smartly, kind of handle or hand over that particular call to probably a seasoned campaigner, right? I mean, for example, an irate customer. Or also going back to, the vernacular languages and stuff like that, proper, kind of English, Hindi. When you go down south, you have various different, kind of languages. On the eastern side, you have various different things. So I think Saurabh also brought in that. Yeah. So depending upon where the customer is calling from, and over a period of time, you're able to build that intelligence at each and every customer level. And you're able to bring that intelligence to practice. And suddenly, over a period of time, the customer will, from, 2 years back when the customer used to call either a English or a Hindi was the only option. From there, you are able to, kind of tailor-made this thing for the customers.
No, you're absolutely right. And I've seen that progression from, 2 languages to 5 to now 8 to 10 languages, and we're being able to do that. So completely hear you. So awesome. So I think with that, we come to the wrap up of our session. Thank you for being a wonderful panel. And I really enjoyed moderating this session. I hope the audience has also equally enjoyed the session.